I became a flame-throwing nightmare in World War II, the haunting memories that won't die. I never should have opened that door. It felt wrong. My heart raced, my palms sweaty, but curiosity got the better of me. There it stood, slightly ajar, the dim light from the hallway creeping into the shadows of the room beyond. The air smelled of dampness and something else, something metallic that made my skin crawl. I hesitated, then pushed it with trembling fingers. Inside, darkness enveloped me. The cold slithered into my bones. I could hear whispers, barely audible but insistent, swirling around me like smoke. My pulse thudded in my ears, drowning out the murmurings that hinted at secrets long buried. I stepped further into the gloom, my breath quickening. Something was off. The heavy silence was broken only by the creaks of ancient wood beneath my feet, echoing like sirens in the night. As I moved deeper, I felt a shift in the air, a presence hovering just out of sight. A chill danced along my spine. Shadows flickered like ghosts, taunting me with their shape and form. My mind raced. Were they real? Or figments born from the deepest corners of my fear? The weight of dread pressed down on me, suffocating. Then came the noise. A soft scraping sound, like nails against chalkboard, reverberated through the room. My heart leaped into my throat. I froze, straining to discern its source. The floorboards protested as I shifted, every creak a warning. I cursed myself for being reckless. Did I really want to know what lurked in the dark? Suddenly, a shadow darted past me, swift and silent. I spun around, my breath caught, heart pounding like a war drum. My senses heightened, the darkness thickened around me. I felt as if the very walls were closing in, pressuring me to turn back, to run. But something rooted me to that spot. Fear and dread spiraled inside, a tempest brewing beneath the surface, then there it was. A hulking figure materialized from the shadows, its eyes burning with an otherworldly glow. Panic struck me like a lightning bolt. I tried to scream, but nothing escaped my lips. Just a choked whisper as it stepped closer. The door slammed shut behind me. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. The figure loomed over me, an amalgamation of nightmares. Black tendrils writhed like living shadows, pulling away from the dim light and intertwining around its grotesque frame. As it breathed, a rancid stench filled the air, a sickening mixture of decay and something burning, like flesh devoured by fire. The grotesque eyes gleamed with malevolence, reflecting the very essence of my terror. With every heartbeat, I could feel its gaze weighing down on me, peeling back layers of sanity. I wanted to look away, to flee, but paralyzing fear held me in place. A soft, guttural growl escaped the creature's lips, vibrating through the hollow room and resonating in my chest. It was a sound that spoke of hunger and despair, a promise of what it could do. The whispers intensified, surrounding me in a cacophony of voices, each more frantic than the last. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. They were warnings, pleas from 1,000 souls trapped within these walls. I staggered back, crashing into an old dresser shrouded in dust, the impact sending shards of memories crashing into my mind. Images flashed before me, soldiers lost in battle, their bodies charred and lifeless amongst the rubble. The flames danced in the background, swallowing everything whole as if they were the very embodiment of hell. I felt their pain seep into my pores, suffocating me under the weight of their sorrow. Join us, a voice, sweet yet dreadful, caressed my ear. It felt both comforting and sinister, a siren's song that beckoned me deeper into the darkness. It promised relief, an end to the suffering I had endured, but at what cost? with a horrible realization, I noticed something creeping along the floor. The shadows seemed to stretch towards me, unabashedly eager, hungry for my very essence. The chill wrapped around my ankles, binding me in place. Somehow, the darkness yearned to claim me just as it had claimed those trapped souls that I lunged for the door, but it had solidified, a wall of unyielding terror before me. My panic surged. I turned to face the creature again, its mouth twisted in a cruel grin, its hunger evident. "You can't leave," it hissed, its breath cold and damp against my skin. "You walked in of your own accord. What did it want from me?" The depth of my fear was tangible, a cold sweat beating on my forehead. I stumbled backward, away from the creature, but my body betrayed me. Every command to run fell upon deaf limbs. Suddenly, the room trembled, and the whispers morphed into screams, horrifying echoes of soldiers pleading for salvation, their cries wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. The very walls seemed to pulse with their agony, distorting reality itself. One of the specters stepped into the light, a soldier with hollow eyes and singed skin, and he reached for me with a skeletal hand. "You must help us break the cycle." I opened my mouth to scream, but the air was sucked from my lungs as everything around me twisted violently. The familiar darkness grew denser, pulsing with the energy of 100 trapped souls, enveloping me in despair. Then, just as abruptly, silence fell. I was alone, the creature and the specters vanished as if they had never existed. I sank to my knees, gasping for breath, the darkness beginning to lift. A flicker of hope sparked within me, but it quickly extinguished as I turned to leave. The door wouldn't budge. The walls retracted like a living beast, creeping closer and closer, and the air thickened, full of rage and sorrow. I could hear something behind me, the sound of movement, like more than just one pair of footsteps, like an army seeking retribution. Before I could comprehend the scope of what lay behind me, I felt the cold touch of fingers, ghostly and clammy, slipping around my shoulders, pulling me back into the void. Hope shattered as I gasped for breath, reality twisting in an unending nightmare. The last thing I saw was the creature rematerializing before me, its mouth stretching wide in a ravenous grin, and the chilling certainty that this was only the beginning of my descent. Then, darkness enveloped me once more. As my consciousness teetered on the edge of oblivion, I was suddenly ripped from the clutches of darkness. Bright, irritating light flooded my vision, slicing through the nightmares that clouded my thoughts. Disoriented, I lay flat on my back, my body tingling with an overwhelming sense of dread. I opened my eyes to find myself in a room disturbingly familiar yet unsettlingly foreign. The walls were smeared with what appeared to be dried blood, deep crimson burns through the peeling paint. Jagged shadows danced in the corners, their movements almost sentient. Breathing heavily, I pushed myself up, blinking against the harsh light. The remnants of the last encounter still gnawed at my insidious, a raw chasm of horror yawning wide within me. That I had hoped that the worst was over, but then I sensed the shifting of the air. A chill swept the room, whispering electric despair as spectral fingers brushed against my skin. I stood, my heart thundering in my chest, and turned slowly. The shadows morphed into silhouettes, indistinct yet threatening. They moved as if alive, darting away whenever I glanced too closely. A hollow laughter echoed from the corners, a sound that wasn't just auditory but felt like the touch of ice upon my spine. I turned toward the source, and there in the corner stood a figure no longer enigmatic but unmistakably real. The soldier from my previous vision. His eyes were milky, void of light, yet filled with an insatiable hunger. "You left too quickly," he rasped, voice cracked and hoarse. "You must bear witness to their plight." Before I could respond, the room itself contorted. Reality splintered, and the walls began to draw closer, the air thickening with a putrid scent. Suddenly, the echoes of explosions detonated all around me, ripping through the walls like the very ghosts they belonged to. I was propelled back into the pasta battlefield, rife with gunfire and screams, where the shadows took form, mingling with dying soldiers. That I stumbled forward, desperately trying to anchor myself, my hands brushing against the ground, which felt sickeningly warm and wet. I pulled my fingers away to find blood. An ocean of crimson lapped at my feet, mingling with the sense of burning flesh and distant gunfire that seemed to seep from every pore of the earth itself. panic infused my veins. I had become immersed in the horror, experiencing their last moments. I could hear their thoughts, a chaos of fear, regret, and anguish resounding in my mind. "Help us! Set us free," they cried. Each word was a dagger, piercing through my resolve, forcing me to stagger backward. As I retreated, a bone-chilling cold streaked through my spine, and I was struck by the terrible realization: the soldiers blended into the shadows, their faces contorting in endless agony, yet they began to rise.